Hi everyone, it's Hans here, the founder of Cappuccino, and welcome back for Series 3 of Flat Whites and Insights, sponsored by SPA Advisory. We're here for some open, honest and vulnerable conversations held over a beautiful cup of coffee, and they're coming from my home, so I'll be providing the flat whites, and my guests, they'll be providing the insights. So grab a coffee for yourselves, take a moment, and I hope you enjoy this latest conversation. Thank you, take care, and enjoy. Oggy, how we doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Cheers for coming down. Wanting to have a conversation. We're kicking off Series 3. And so I know you as footballer, currently at Milton United. But I know you've played at Didcot Town, a club I'm associated with, Abingdon as well. But for those who don't know who you are, you're right to give a brief introduction before we kind of kick into it.
My name's James Organ.
James,
everyone's known me as Oggy. Ever since I've been a little kid, I've been known as Oggy. From Abingdon, growing up in Abingdon all my life, still live there now. I'm 39 years old, so I'm getting on a bit. So nearly at the big 40, but yeah. So
yeah, amazing. And so, have you always played football? I guess is a question.
Yeah, so I started off about 5 years old.
Yeah.
My mum sort of took me to a local Radley team. Sort of grew up playing at 5 years old. So since then, I've just been week in, week out playing football. So always loved football. Big Arsenal fan sort of thing, even though I don't get a chance to go because obviously playing football. I've been playing football since 5 years old, so it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, amazing. And like I say, obviously it's only in the recently, like last 3-4 years, I've kind of got into the area and got involved in football in the area. Now involved at Didcot and Milton, so obviously clubs that you've kind of been associated with there as well.
Yeah.
But what is really cool as well, and I think I will touch on it because it's kind of how this came about, is in the last series, Christian, who's obviously the gaffer, came on the podcast and he spoke a little bit about his experiences, not just in the game, but in life. And he was kind of talking about opening up and talking about a gambling addiction and things like that. And it was off the back of that episode that I kind of got a message from yourself and you just said, I really love that conversation. Am I right to come on? And I think for me, that was cool because that's the whole point of this podcast really is, if people feel they can see it, and you even said yourself, like kind of inspired by what Christian did. So, what kind of,
well, I was
want to come on.
So as I said, I watched the podcast of Christian on, and obviously I know his problems with obviously being the gaffer and stuff like that, and him coming out about it. And it sort of gave me a bit of inspiration because I've gone through sort of a bit of a similar thing with the gambling thing. I think around about 15 years ago, this year, not so long ago, I had a sort of a bad life-threatening injury nearly, or an accident, we call it, not an injury. So I sort of smashed through a window and damaged my tendons in my arms and my hands. And it was a bit of sort of a drunken night thing. So it was a bit of a my fault mistake, but I also almost hit like the main artery through the glass. And it's sort of like from then, I was off work for like 6 months to a year. I couldn't drive. I had my hands all up in cars, so I was literally stuck at home doing basically nothing. And it sort of spiraled from there. Obviously, you go through depression because you're not living your normal day-to-day life, so I struggled with that sort of mental side of it. And obviously going through therapy, they talking space and stuff like that with hand. So I went to talking space and they sort of helped me through the process of like trying to deal with PSTD or stuff like that. So it's I went through that, but obviously going through that where I was stuck at home doing nothing, not being able to do anything, I sort of got into a bit of gambling from then.
I guess almost that something that was able to like stimulating or just something to take your mind off probably
it
the
was
situation you're in.
It was sort of like you couldn't, the only things I could do was watch telly, go for walks, but I have quite an addictive personality, so a bookies opened up around the corner from where I live, and I sort of, to bide my time, I was going in there sort of not majorly spending, but you know, he's just starting off. And before that, I was always liked the gambling, little small bets, football, stuff like that. Obviously, there was the pub next door called College Oak, so sometimes I was going in there having a drink, and then going in the bookie. So it was like a mixture thing, bad combination, as you call it. So I got into a bit of drinking from there as well, and then the gambling sort of from there spiraled, and then the addiction started. And it was a sort of over about a 10, 15 year spell where I was gambling a lot. Got found out a lot, spent a lot of money, got into a lot of debt. But mentally, I struggled a lot with it through depression, anxiety, as is obviously trying to go to football as well. It was my release. So I was in a lot of trouble with it, but going to football sometimes was a release for me to just not think about anything else. I struggled with it a lot, with the gambling.
And no, thanks for chatting about that. And during that time, so you say it was like 10, 15 years ago, and you had obviously the injury. Were you playing football at the time as well?
Yeah.
Or when you were injured? So I guess it's almost that, you said about that release, so you lost that release as well. So almost couldn't be out there with the...
Yeah, because the injury, it happened around about sort of April time, so it was quite close to the end of the season time. So it was through the summer. I didn't get back playing until probably October time, when I was sort of fully healed where I could actually play. So I was off football for quite a long time. And that's obviously not being able to play football, and then obviously the gambling was my release then.
That was almost maybe the thing that gave you that like adrenaline that you didn't get from the football.
Exactly, So I needed something, and obviously because I got into it and then got back to football, obviously the gambling stayed there, and it never got rid of it, because the addiction sort of got into it sort of a bit more. So I've been sort of I wouldn't say I've actually had a gamble since I stopped. It was around about 2 to 3 years ago. I had to go to GA meetings, stuff like that. So they helped out a lot, and that was quite one of the hardest things to do. Was like something like this, talking to someone you don't know hardly and stuff like that, to open up emotionally and say your story and get everything out. But it helped a lot. I have had a gamble sort of in between, like not lately, but sort of in the last year. But it's been in under controlled manner with my wife, so she's like big things like playing the national or something that's sort of a little bit enjoyable. But with the addiction sort of completely gone, they say it never goes. It's manage it. You have to manage it. But as I said, the way it was, that's sort of I've passed that now. But yeah, it's
amazing. Mate. It's great to hear. It's obviously great to hear that it's kind of where you are now, in a place where you do feel you do want to come on here and talk about that. It's not easy for us guys, like whether that's in gambling, whether that's, I've never really been into that myself, but obviously can relate to the depression and anxiety. And I think for myself, I find that when I had my kind of breakdown and had to quit my PhD that I was studying, and that was my identity in a way. A bit like, sometimes with young players, if they're, especially like the pros, they're in the academy, they're like, I'm going to be a footballer. And then they get a career-ending injury, or they get released, and suddenly they're like...
It's like, what do I do now?
Who am I? What do I do? So I had that, but the biggest thing was telling my mates, telling my family, telling people close to me. That was the hardest thing, because I felt like I'd been lying to them about this is who I am.
Exactly.
So it is tough, especially for us guys. Like, I went to an all-boys school, but again, growing up, we don't really... hope like these days it's probably getting a bit better, but like it was just, you bottle it up.
Yeah, as I said, it was 100% agree, because the worst thing was the lying. I think lying, which breaks you more, because you become someone who you're not, because you become a compulsive liar, and you're lying to your wife, you're lying to your family, your parents. And then when you have to sort of eventually sort of tell them, because you get in such a bad way where you can't get out of it, then they're the ones you would think you need to go to, because they're the closest to you. And obviously then telling them to say, you've been doing this and been lying to them for that so long.
Yeah, that's almost the
hardest thing. You think how they're going to react. Okay, they're your family, they're obviously never going to disown you. It's that bad, because I wouldn't say it's a horrible thing, it's just an addiction, so it's something you can't control sometimes. So that was the hardest thing, was literally coming up and saying I'll put you through this, and this is why maybe some days I've been really quiet or not responsive to relationships, stuff like that. And obviously the hard thing was obviously my daughter's 7 now, so I was going through it while she was born, and that in some ways I look back at it, and because of the gambling I was so involved in it. Yeah. Sometimes you forget, you miss things of your daughter growing up because you was more worried about watching a horse race or watching the gambling ticket going, is this coming in? And you miss things and you don't remember those things because the mind was just so enticed into the gambling.
Yeah.
And also I took it into football really, because like you mean if you're gambling, you've got the addiction, you've got a game that day but you've put a big bet on and you're looking at half time and you're not really...
your head's not really in the game,
So it affected my football a lot because of how long I was doing it for. And I think you would have think if I weren't gambling, what would my football have been like? Would I have been better that day or that season?
Yeah.
But people don't pick up on that thing at football because we're men. We don't... Yeah. We mask it as well. For addiction, we mask it quite well. So obviously you look like you're happy, but deep down you're like thinking about that sort of thing, football and stuff like that. So it did affect my football a lot. And obviously they don't see it as much. So it was hard work.
Yeah, it's hard. But it is hard, isn't it? Especially that you say the line and masking and that always in the back of your head, kind of not really having peace of mind, I guess, because or you can't just go out, because that is one thing. And you mentioned about football being a release, and probably now is like in general, and a lot of footballers say about that 90 minutes, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters, and it's getting to a point where that is the case, and that's probably why it is a release, and you get the good relationships with football. So, I guess the question to ask is, obviously you're still playing. Well, we'll see.
It's one of those ones. I said I think I worked out. I think I've played 23, 24 years of men's football now.
Okay.
I think I was 16 when I got into Abbey United's first team. At a pretty young age, which was quite scary at that age, going into men's football. So for 23, 24 pre-seasons, all that hard work, it takes its toll. Like, I mean, I still think I can do it, but obviously I'm not as fit as I was or as quick as I used to be. Mentally, I think I can do it, but it's body-wise.
Does the body want to...
The game day, I can sort of do the game, but it's probably 3 or 4 days after that I struggle with.
Yeah, because I know what you mentioned about having that injury when you're younger, and the time since I've been watching Milton, the shoulder's been causing me a bit of...
So that happened in the playoff final last year against Hartbury.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was probably one of the best footballing moments I've been in. Getting promotion, at any level is amazing to do. So it was probably one of the best days to probably one of the worst days of football. So I've never struggled with a lot of injuries, and that's probably why I've played for quite a long time. I've never struggled with many injuries. Had a few hamstrings, a few ankle ligaments, but nothing like as major as this. And obviously when it happened, it was probably the worst pain I've ever had in my life. It wouldn't click back in when I come off. Amy in physio, she did wonders for me, but I didn't want her to touch it because it was so painful, and she's like, you need to go to hospital. But I was refusing because it was in a final. Obviously, we were winning the game, and I've come off, and I'm like, no, I need to watch the game. I can't.
You want to be there?
I don't want to. Yeah, I want to be there and involved. So I went through the pain. She gave me some painkillers, and it eventually did click back in near the end of the game. But obviously, we were 2-0 up, and it was the pain. I think watching the game and
did that probably help with the pain because it
try and
distracted
take
you,
it away because I was just so like in focus, like this win. But yeah, the celebrations after that good, but I didn't. Obviously, we had a few drinks afterwards and I've strapped it up a bit. Next day was having a hangover and painful. So yeah, I've got to pre-season. It would just sort of healed a bit. Obviously, it was the end of the season, so there was no football. So at least it was perfect time to relax. I think we come to pre-season. I struggled with pre-season this season because I think I couldn't get as fit as I could. And obviously we came into the start of the season, sort of didn't really pay much. The game I did come back and play, my first game sort of starting, I think it was in end of August time. Yeah. I did the other shoulder.
Yeah. So I think I was there that time. I was there at the second one in August.
So that was, we was away to Bedfont or Bedford, I can't remember who it was. It was a away game, but the other shoulder went. It weren't as bad.
Yeah.
I could just feel the tear on the thing as well, and the shoulder pop out. So that was it. I was like, right, I've had both shoulders.
Yeah.
That was another 6 weeks out. So by the time I got back, because I went on holiday in September, so let recovery, come back in October. Obviously unfit again, because obviously fitness.
Yeah.
Now I've got to start again. Where
So it's
everyone's
almost like
getting
starting
their
from
fitness.
scratch. Yeah.
And then I just struggled from there, and I was in and out playing, and then had a little bit of a hamstring niggle, whereas you're trying to keep up with all the training and everyone's all fit. So it was a bit of a struggle with injuries and playing time this year. So that deep down it made me think, okay, do I do this again? Do I put my body through injuries? It's going to get worse as you get older. So I said I was going to sort of retire and give it up, but as you said, I don't know until the summer's over.
See how it feels. Yeah.
I know my wife would want me to give up, and my daughter's saying you need to give up. You're getting old. Yeah, she's like, can't concentrate on me playing football because she wants to get into football. But yeah, so 100%. I'm not sure. Probably about 80% that I'm not, but that 20% just
like you say, there's that bit of you is.
That's all I've known since I was 5
years
old.
And also it's that once you stop.
Yeah, that's
it.
It's hard to
get back in.
If I say I stopped for 6 months or a year, that year after I'd be now 40. That'd be even harder.
It's that
to get back
in. Yeah, it is that decision. It's not one that you can probably just.
Yeah, I get told a lot, like, keep playing until your body
until you can't do basically,
it. But then I see it as like, but would you want to put your body through maybe a major injury?
You don't want to.
My knees, my knee ligaments, because obviously they get weaker. I don't ever want a knee ligament injury because I've seen people go through them.
Yeah.
I said mine probably, at my age with my knees, they're probably more prone to have it.
And also it's that it impacts, and I think this is something that particularly maybe in grassroots game or when it's not full-time professionals is it's not just impacting your football, it's your day-to-day, it's the job, another source of income.
Home life, everything.
Home life
and I said, we obviously, it's not your day-to-day job, it is a hobby really, but it's sort of like a good hobby to have because people take it seriously because it's good levels and stuff like that. But it comes down to is it worth it putting your body through that? Where I've had a good footballing non-league career where I've done a lot and been through a lot, and I think achieved quite a bit as much as I would think. I probably wanted to achieve more, but it's all I've known since 5 years old, week in, week out. So sometimes it's got to be a point where you think, concentrate on something else. But it's incredible to hear that, and I guess so. I'm not saying it is the end. We'll see, but when you look back, do you have any particular highlights, like favourite moments or favourite games? It's hard to sort of narrow it down. I've got quite a few. Obviously, playing for so long. I think one that probably there's a couple probably stick out most. I would say obviously the FA Cup first round for Didcot, playing on TV in front of quite a good crowd on BT Sports and against Exeter. That's the highlight because it weren't just that game. It was the build up, the love around Didcot, around Oxfordshire that you got from people, fans. Because the achievement, I think, to get around first round is quite hard for like a Southern League level team. And our run to the first round, we had quite an easy, let's say easy run, but it was a kind run. We didn't have any teams up until the first round that were higher than the Southern Prem sort of level.
Okay.
So we got lucky with that, even though we played teams higher than us. And I think it all started off with the first game we played against Wantage. We were 3-0 down.
Yeah, I think I've heard the chalks
15 minutes
tell me
to go,
and
we won that game. And you think like you would have fought from there to go on to the first round, but the build up for that day, staying in a hotel the night before, and like actually being treated like a professional. It was like an insight of being treated like a professional, where you get the news team come and have interviews and stuff like that. So it was that insight. If you've never experienced professional football or that sort of thing, it was that for that couple of days or week to feel what it feels like. And the game obviously was good. We were 0-0 at half time, but they scored straight after half time, and obviously 3-0. And I think people always say, I always mention it, I hit the crossbar in the 80th minute, or the keeper saved it, and I thought that would have been nice to score on TV in the first
Yeah,
round.
that would
So I was
have
a
been
bit gutted. And my cousin, he mentioned after the game, he said he had me at 35-1 to score any
Did he?
time. He had a £10 on it, so he was a bit gutted. But yeah, it was a good experience. That, and then obviously I think the obvious one was last season being captain for Milton and winning the playoff final, because I've never experienced winning a promotion as winning something like that.
Yeah.
So to not be able to win the league, and because the Atlantic League and stuff like that, they never had the opportunity to do playoffs before. Like they never used to do it.
Yeah,
It used to be just the winning team would go up, and then they finally sort of brought in a promotion thing, so it gives you that second chance.
Yeah.
And then to go through that and win that and lift the little plate we won, and with the lads and that, it was just a great memory. So they were probably the two footballing moments that stand out.
This series of Flat Whites and Insights is sponsored by SP8 Advisory. They specialise in corporate, employment and personal taxation with over 8 years experience between Big Four and industry, and they can support both businesses and individuals with their tax affairs. You've just got to visit spa8advisory.co.uk to find out more, and that link will be in the information for this podcast. I know Stuart really well. He's a close friend and he's very, very good at what he does, so I can only recommend the service. Thanks. Now let's get back to Flat Whites and Insights.
Obviously, I got a few. I think there's another one. I played for North Lee, and we won the Senior Cup at the Kassam. We beat Oxfordshire City, and I think I scored in it as well. So that was quite nice to play at the Kassam and win a trophy. So they're the only things I've won in men's football in 24 years. It was the Senior Cup and obviously the last year's playoffs. So two things out of that long. There's not much, is it? But it's a simple. So when you win those things, you have to treasure them, and they sort of, your memories will last forever and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the group around Milton certainly feels like there's a real good bunch of people there. Obviously, I've got to know Gareth, Christian, got to know fairly well, and I guess a lot of that maybe you say comes from himself. It'd be interesting to, because I've had Christian on, and it'd be interesting to maybe hear your perspective of playing under him, especially when he's obviously a fair bit younger than yourself.
Yeah, I know. God, yes, it's horrible when all the managers are always younger than you. But I think it was at Milton. I think obviously I went there. I've been there 5 seasons now, and I think Sam Elkins was brought me in because I'm good mates with Sam, played with him,
and played with him at Didcot
and stuff like that, and I dropped down from Southern League level to so I dropped down a couple of levels, so I was getting older, and Sam was like ambitious to get Milton up because he said the club's going places. So unfortunately it obviously didn't work out with him of stuff like that. But then that year, I think the year before last, when they needed a new manager, I was going to leave because I didn't know who they were bringing in. I thought I might try something else. Christian come in, had me in for a chat. He says, I want you to keep you as captain because I want to keep most of the gel of the lads together because obviously you've got community together there. So he had faith in me to sort of keep me on. He knew I was getting a bit older, but he said, right, you can still be captain. I want to do something this year. I know we're a new side. Probably the odds are against us because I don't know with a new management side how far we get. But when he come in, he was, as being his first management job, I obviously know he'd done precision and stuff like that.
He's done it.
So he's worked with a lot of really quality young lads, and his coaching skills I heard were absolutely excellent. So when he come in, didn't know what to expect. I know he was a goalkeeper playing, he's given up quite young to go into management.
That's something that he said. He was started out his coaching bits at 22, so very young.
But when he sort of going in his first training, so I can see the ambition he wanted and the drive he wanted and how much effort he put in. So obviously with Tatty as well, like training was unbelievable, like the way he coached and stuff like that, and wanted to play. And it was more of the faith he put in the lads. He was sort of like a matey sort of manager. So some managers are not. Some managers just want to manage, but he was more of like, I'll be your mate as well, and sort of bring that community together.
That man management, isn't it? Like you want to play for the man,
someone who loves you as well. Who wants you might have a bad game, but he put his arm around you afterwards and talk you through it and stuff like that. So his management skills, I was surprised, and I was actually like amazed, like such young manager coming into a new side, of how he wanted us to play and the ambitions and the ways it sold it to me. And I think we started off really well. We looked really good. I think we got to Christmas and we were like second, and we were in chance of winning the league.
Yeah.
And we had the little bit of a blip after Christmas, but we were obviously always going to get playoffs. But for his first management to achieve that, I think it was unbelievable. So you're working on it's sort of, you've made mates for life really, sort of thing, because the way how close you become and the trust he put in me with still being captain, because he could have easily come in and brought in a new captain who he thinks...
Like say sometimes a manager comes in and they want to put their own stamp on it.
Yeah, they sometimes do. So I'm glad he sort of had faith in me, sort of thing. But yeah, it worked out well in the end, because obviously we won the playoffs, and it was brilliant. So yeah,
and like you say, that's that memories that you have as that group
forever. Yeah.
And so Christian, when he was on the podcast in his episode, he mentioned about, obviously he's had his experiences with gambling as well, and kind of told the group. So I guess for a player, for a captain who's maybe been through something like that, to see your manager be so vulnerable and open up, particularly in football, I guess, is that something that you hadn't really seen before in your
Not really,
career?
no, because I've seen, when I've grown up, you sort of, how long I've been playing is sort of old school way of like being a man. Like you just get on with it. Football's changed a lot since when I first started playing, so I've had to adapt myself and sort of
almost what some of the younger boys now come in, you can't speak. Like,
exactly. You can't really, the way I got talked to when I was 18, 19, 20. You just had to get on with it, but now you have to be careful how you do it, because the game's changed so much and culture of football's changed so much. You adapt to that way. Sometimes I'm as being captain, say the wrong things in a game, or like Christian would probably come in afterwards and give me like a little pep talk and just be a bit easier on the lads. And I'm like, I understand. But I've got a winning mentality, so when I want to win a game, you just get lost into that. If you say something on the pitch, like to a young lad, you think afterwards, oh, sorry, no, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it personally. It was just in that moment, I just wanted to win. But yeah, with Christian, him opening him up, I remember when he opened up about because he did message me before he was going to do that sort of thing. Because obviously he knew I had a gambling problem, and he wanted to know where I went for the talking GA sort of meetings and stuff like that. So he asked me about stuff like that, and I gave him a bit of advice and stuff like this. And so it was an emotional night when he did. I think he said it before a game or after a game. I couldn't remember, but it was quite emotional for me as well, because I was like, I've been through that, and I've never had to come out in front of lads and say it, because I never used to like talking to tell someone, oh yeah, by the way, I'm emotionally damaged through gambling. So for him to do that, it showed a lot of character in him, and I see it, instead of just a footballing coach and a manager, you see another side of it as more of a mate and stuff like that, because he's gone through that vulnerability of actually opening up and telling all the lads that he's managing that what he's going through.
It's a brave thing, because you don't know some of that. You trust that it's a group that, of decent men, and it seems there is a group, but you wouldn't know. He could have that fear or that worry, someone might use this again if I'm not picking up.
Yeah, well, it showed his trust and faith in us, that he was treating us like a family as well, because they say it's like when you open up to your family about that sort of, that's the first people you open up to. So he was opening up to us. So it was putting that other side, his vulnerability to us, and showing us how much he cared about us and what he wanted to achieve. So it was top man. It was amazing. Yeah,
like you say, it says a lot of volumes about the man, let alone the manager. And why would you not want to play for someone like that?
Exactly. And I think that might have helped us sort of to get pushed through to the end of the season.
Probably
to get
bring it together. Yeah.
As I said, some young lads don't understand. Obviously, they're growing up playing football. They don't experience, or haven't experienced that sort of thing. So it probably them in their heads, they probably think, this is going to make me want to play with them. Yeah,
or at least they know, like if any of the young know that they can come speak to yourself or come speak to Christian.
That's the other thing I love about coming on here as well, and you invited me on. It's amazing because it shows that I think there is still people that go through everything in football. There's probably more out there than we know. And it might just help like people come in and actually want to talk or open up with their teammates and stuff like that, and it might stop someone going through what we gone through. And might help their playing career. And stuff like that, and push them on. So
definitely,
it's a big thing.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I think with what I do, like with Barks and Bucks FA as well, trying to get that conversation going in the game and things. So for me, it's it's a personal thing. I've not obviously had the football experience as such. I played a little bit when I was younger, but never to a level. But just in any walk of life, really, just that, you know, for guys, just don't, again, for me, it comes from that not wanting people to get to the point I got to where I didn't know really anything about mental health and then had to because there was no other option. Like just kind of just burnt out, overworked myself. But it's about that, just talking is a big thing. It's hard, and it is really hard.
It's very hard.
It is really hard, particularly when
it's emotional as
you
well.
don't know what you're, sometimes you don't even know in yourself what you're trying to say, but you just need to get it out, and it can be draining. I found that particularly when I first started talking about it, like it's draining because it's opening up.
It's sort of like there's no script to it as well, because it's when you start talking about it, it just comes from the heart and the head, because it's something, unless you've experienced it, you don't know how you're going to say something, or because you just go from what you've experienced. And like you said with the mental health thing, like I didn't think I could go through something through that, or didn't even know enough to think, is that what I'm going through, or what's this, and that's how I'm feeling at this point. But to go through it, and as you said, it'd be nice to help young people not go through that, because I think it's one of the worst things to go through, because it affects not just you but everyone around you that you're involved with in your family or stuff like that. And as I said, I wish I would have probably stamped on it a bit earlier than I did. Through a 10-15 year period is quite hard. I should have opened up a bit more earlier, but there was nothing, I think, in around that time much about mental health or coming out and talking it for men.
In hindsight, it's like
with social media.
I wish I could have, but for you as you are now, the man you are now is very different to the man you were, say, 10-15 years ago. And you wouldn't have had the education, the tools of knowing that was an option, probably.
If it would have been like, as I said, I think it needs to be pushed more, because if it was around about that time, I probably wouldn't have maybe not gone through that long a period of going through it. But obviously now it's out, now it might stop people going through what I've gone through that 10-15 year period. It might only last a year, but they could get out of it quicker and not get into such a state with it.
I think that's actually probably a perfect example of, say, what's so incredible about what, say, yourself coming on or Christian coming on and chatting, that if there was a young lad maybe at Milton or something now, they know that it's okay to talk about it, it's okay to say it, and can bring it up. And if you'd have had a gaffer like that 10-15 years ago, not to say anything against the gaffer, just it was different. And
I think it was just
a different culture.
Yeah, and I think social media, I know social media can be bad and it can be good. There's sort of swings and roundabouts with it. But obviously back then when I was playing, there weren't as much social media around, or a platform, as you said, for it. So you didn't know enough about it, not enough education about it. But it's all about picking up signs. I think, like I said, with young lads and playing with a team, you can, like personally myself, I can pick up signs of if they are or if they're not. Well, not 100% if we're new, but sometimes there's little small
particularly when
things.
you've been through it yourself, you kind of think,
it's the small
I can relate
things.
to behaviours and things,
Like sometimes it could be a player going through a bit of bad form, even playing. Like if sometimes you have bad games, a couple of bad games, whatever. But if they're going through months and months of bad games, you think, but they were unbelievable not so long before, and you think, could there be something? But in some ways you don't. It's hard to sort of approach it, because you don't want to feel like you're jumping into their private life, because it could be none of your business.
It could be that they don't want to. They're not ready to open up. It's so difficult.
It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to get out of someone, and it's just, as you said, it's picking up signs. And I think if we can sort of help someone, or you can help someone not go through it, and it's unbelievable. So.
Amazing. And something I saw recently, you played in that game for Abingdon as well, was it? They had the match for Minds. I know they had a few teams they were trying to arrange it with.
Yeah, so obviously growing up, starting up for Abbey United as a men's team, being from Abingdon, obviously Millsy's the manager there, and he sort of asked me, do you want to sort of get involved? And I said, I'd love to, because I've done a few little charity things for Abbey United things, and it's good fun. You get a few people there, it raises a bit of money, you have a good little laugh for playing football. So I'm always up for doing stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's good to see.
I love doing it sort of thing, because it's obviously I just love football as well.
Yeah,
so
any chance to have a
something just over the road, just to go and play a bit of football and have a bit of a laugh, beer afterwards. It was perfect. But
no, it was good, and I know that Ryan does with his mind. Supports Abingdon United a fair bit.
Yeah.
In a similar way, I guess, that I do a bit of stuff with Didcot. So it's really cool that there's 2 local clubs, and where I'm involved in Milton, local clubs are starting to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But he's going to be coming on the podcast as well, so I'm really interested to hear about his journey and his story, which will be interesting. But yeah, before we finish, there's a question I ask everyone. So you're the scene, so you've had a bit of time to maybe think about this. But what does happiness mean to yourself, Oggy?
God, yeah. So I think happiness is is basically. I think it's not even to be doing with sport or anything. I think happiness is fam. I always think family.
Yeah.
Because your family are always going to be there for you, no matter what. Because in football, mates, they come and go. You make new mates, old mates. You might not have old mates you don't see. But your family, especially my wife and my daughter, they're always going to be there for me, and they've been, I think, the ones that have stuck by me through all the pain I've put through them, through what I've gone through with football, even with mental health and the gambling. They've always stuck by me and supported me for it. Yeah. So happiness is, to me, I just think family, because that's the thing that has got me out of where I am today, and who I am today, and a better person, and obviously they're the ones that made me happy. So it's a bit kind of choking up a bit.
No, it's amazing. It's from the heart, and it's like you say, it's for me, even like we obviously knew of you, but this is the first time we've had a proper conversation, really, and it's incredible to hear you open up and hear about your story, and making me emotional.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I didn't expect what to say, because of like happiness. Yeah,
it's difficult, but it's like we say, it can be hard, but it's nice sometimes to just, when you talk from the heart, it just comes out. And,
but as I said, like, happiness could be anything. But I think if you've got family, you could have nothing, could have no money, could have not playing football or anything. But if you've got family, I think you're always gonna be happy.
Puts you in perspective of what's important.
I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Amazing. Appreciate it, Oggy. Cheers.
Right, thank you.
Thanks very much, man. Really enjoyed that.
I enjoyed it too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, and I really hope you gained something from that conversation, because I know I certainly did. It would mean a lot if you can like or subscribe on whatever platform you may be watching or listening on, and please do share this podcast with any friends or family or anyone you know that you think might benefit from having a listen. Also, if you can head over to Instagram and give Cappuccino a follow, that's where you'll find the latest updates as we look to raise awareness of mental health through my passions for football and coffee. And I'm always open to people getting in touch if you want to have a conversation, collaborate, or even come on the podcast yourself. The support means a lot, and I'm very grateful. Thanks so much again, and I hope to see you soon.